Happy Monday. What's going on, guys? It's Ricky with TechBit Solutions. Hope that you guys are all having a great start to the week. BTC is down 1.5% on the day. NASDAQ market is down 0.36 and falling. At one point, NASDAQ market was up to highs of nearly 629, but now beginning to retrace. I wanted to highlight one thing and one thing only right now. We're talking about it in today's live trading session with the LPP team. Friendly reminder, do trade live every morning, especially if you're a beginner and you ever want to tune on in. Second link in the description down below. NASDAQ market has done an incredible job. I first started off the live stream today with acknowledging, hey, markets are bullish, showing signs of higher highs and higher lows, as you can see on the 30-minute time frame. It's really important to acknowledge the overall trend of the market, but it has been pulling back to the moving average and finding support, pulling back, finding support, pulling back, finding support, meaning that it's recovering. As markets began to sell off, we started getting close to the moving average, but this time we actually began to break that support and actually sell off, showing signs of progress of a possible break of structure, break of support. And look at this, big gap down potential. On the 4-hour time frame, it paints a different picture. We still have a lot more room to drop before we get an actual full break of pattern. But if we do end up selling off and breaking that support, we have huge gap down to 580. And remember, in just 2 days, the FOMC is supposed to decide if they're going to be cutting interest rates. And that is the big focus this week. So with that being said, I wanted to kind of make you aware of what the schedule is for this week. Tomorrow, Tuesday, December 9th, we do have a few reports with the JOLTS, which are the job openings. But on Wednesday, December 10th, at 2 p.m. Eastern Time is the most important economic event this week. And that is the FOMC rate decision. At 2 p.m. Eastern Time, there will be a release of a report. And according to the Fed Rate Monitor tool, there's an 85% probability that the Federal Reserve is going to cut interest rates. But remember, that is a probability tool, not what the Federal Reserve has to do. But again, very favored for a 25 basis point rate cut, which the market wants. The market would most likely rally. There's a 14, almost 15% probability that the Federal Reserve is going to pause. No rate change. That would most likely be bearish for the market if that were to be released. Remember, markets have been recovering on the belief that the Federal Reserve is going to cut rates. Why are they going to cut rates? Because the weakening labor market. We've had one of our worst weakening job reports since 2023. So that does technically, according to that data, support a rate cut. But we haven't seen inflation reports actually be released, as in the CPI data report, for the past few months due to the government shutdown. And Jerome Powell, who's the head of the Federal Reserve, has stated that he would not feel comfortable cutting rates if he cannot see the actual data being released. We'll see if that sentiment changes according to the FOMC committee. Because again, it's not just Jerome Powell that votes, it's an entire committee. And depending on what they determine and they see to be fit, what will be what actually gets reported. 30 minutes after the FOMC rate decision, Jerome Powell goes live and he answers analyst questions. I do plan to live stream that, so just another reason to subscribe if you guys have not done so already. But again, if you're looking at the market and it's looking quite bearish, it is today. Normally leading up to a major economic event, like when there's a lot of pressure on CPI reports, FOMC rate decisions, as you know, is going to happen this Wednesday, there's a lot of volatility. One moment today, we started off green, we pulled on back, it starts to go red. Tomorrow, we could be recovering. There's a lot of volatility. Please make sure that if you're a beginner, you're mindful of your position size, you cut losses quick, and when in doubt, never be afraid to cash out. This is not a bad time to be cash and just watching the market, especially if you don't deal well with quick changes of direction. Again, markets opened up very strong, but then quickly ended up giving it back, showing signs of a bull trap. But tomorrow, it could be a different story. We could sell off quick and then sharply begin to recover, as again, the market is bound to get what it wants, and that's a 25 basis point rate cut. So very excited to see how the markets ultimately end up trading, but just wanted to make sure that you are aware. As BTC, one of my least favorite assets, was testing a resistance range, as you can see, during today's live trading session from its overall highs, I saw it to be more at a resistance than it was as a support. Support tends to be right around 80 to maybe 85. Resistance has been descending, and although it can break above, I would have to manage and mitigate risk according to that. As BTC sells off, MSTR sells off too. So the big focus that I had is instead of shorting MSTR, the focus that I had was going long on MSTZ, which is the inverse ETF. So that has been my trade for the day. I'm willing to add more as long as there is break of structure and break of support on BTC. As of right now, it's doing a very good job holding at 89,000. So it makes no sense to add more. Excited to keep you guys up today. Again, on the 30-minute time frame, I see more downside potential, especially on the 1-hour time frame. Huge downside potential. But when in doubt, never be afraid to cash out, especially if you're a beginner. Especially if you are a beginner, your focus should be to establish healthy habits, not to nickel and dime an entire opportunity. But again, let's not get it twisted. This week, FOMC rate decision, 2 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday, and then 30 minutes after is the FOMC press conference. That should be your main focus for the week. Other than that, I wanted to share that 21 Capital just transferred 43,500 BTC worth $4.5 billion. Looks like they're sitting at a $1.5 billion loss, and it looks like they are willing to sell it. Let's see what actually ends up happening. On top of that, the U.S. Labor Department announced that it's canceling the October PPI report. Again, I guess you can't have bad inflation if it's never reported. You guys let me know down in the comment section what you think. Do you think that it's fair that these institutions are able to cancel reports when it might be looking bad, especially when they don't want it to support the case of a rate pause? Again, just something, I guess, more food for thought. You guys let me know down in the comment section down below. I'll see you tomorrow for our live trading session whenever you're ready to tune on in. Second link in the description down below. Like always, let's make sure that we end the year on a green note. Take care, team.